Crysis, the CPU melting monster of yesteryear. A milestone of real-time rendering, the most expensive and popular benchmarking tool ever made. Probably. I don't really care that much about the technical stuff, actually. To me, Crysis has just been a game I've gone back to poke at over the years. There's something about it that wouldn't quite let go of me. I played through it again recently. Oh god, that was nearly a year ago. And I think I finally got it nailed. Crysis is nearly great. At its best, it's a collection of interesting, dynamic systems for the player to interact with. The foundation's your standard 7th gen modern military first-person shooter. The twist is the nanosuit, sporting an array of modes that supplement the player's abilities. Strength mode lets you throw heavy stuff far and jump high. Speed mode makes you go fast. Cloak mode makes you invisible, and armor mode stops you from dying. Usually. That might all sound pretty straightforward, but the modes have some less obvious features to them that add to the complexity, like strength mode reducing recoil and speed mode increasing the speed of all your animations, like switching weapons and punching. On its own, this wouldn't necessarily give you all that much to play with, but we also have a decent range of weapons that are themselves highly modular, allowing the player to change sights, underbarrel attachments, and a handful of other things to their liking. And to complete the picture, the game has very large open levels with, admittedly, linear objectives, but no prescribed path or scripted set pieces. It all adds up to something really fun. Any given encounter can be approached in a huge variety of ways. Sensible, controlled fire from your AR, using cover, and relying on armor mode. Well, it certainly works, if a little boring. Slowly headshotting everything with a suppressor and using the cloak to sneak around. Very effective. Finding a machine gun and using it to mow everyone down before they can react. That's a lot faster. Grabbing a shotgun and zipping around in speed mode like you're playing Quake 3 Team Arena and dying just as fast. That's my personal favorite. Melee and barrel flinging only, like Donkey Kong finally snapped and went on a murderous rampage. Not sure I'd advise it, but you get to make your own fun. This is the heart of the game. You're always in control of how you'd like to play, and the different ways you can solve the problems in front of you. Some may be more effective in certain conditions than others, but you are always the final arbiter. If what you want is to do nothing but trank enemies and run past them for your pacifism run, then by all means. I think you do have to kill some people, but still. It's the kind of strength that the immersive sim genre, curse you for that name, Warren, utilizes really well. Crysis doesn't fall into that category, I don't think, but there are some similar design principles here. Notably, in comparison to many examples of that genre, Crysis doesn't really lock you into a particular playstyle. There aren't skill points or upgrade trees to contend with. All you need to change up your approach is to find the right gear and be willing to use it. So, Crysis is great, and you should give it a shot if you haven't. Okay, video over. Thanks for hanging out. Not really. At its worst, Crysis is a collection of frustrating and tedious moments, clumsily written and jammed together in one package to show off as much as they could. I suppose you could accuse Half-Life 2 of something similar, but at least that game's frustrating parts are genuinely novel for a while and don't overstay their welcome. Too much. The writing is also good, as opposed to shite.
I know what happened.
Crysis does indeed have a plot, sadly. I'm severely disinterested in getting into any detail, so suffice it to say, North Korea invades some totally not made up island and kidnaps a bunch of archaeologists working a dig site there. The US sends some men in fancy armor to rescue the scientists, but it turns out it was aliens. Okay, fine. There are really only two important things to note on this front. The first is that all the characters suck. They're entirely devoid of any personality, save Jester, who says the only funny line in the game,
"Looks like someone had a little trouble parking their boat,"
and is immediately summarily executed for the crime of attempting to inject some kind of joy into the narrative. And Psycho, who is best described as British and a little grumpy.
That's bollocks and you know it!
All the dialogue cutscenes in the game seem to exist for the facial animations. Who these people are and what they're saying don't matter. There's a scene in which most of the main cast hang out in a room and talk about the current state of things, and we establish some of their quirks and relationships. This scene is 30 minutes before the end of the game. We've already figured out that we don't care about these characters and this isn't helping anything. The plot is perfunctory, and the characters are irrelevant. They merely waste your time and obstruct you from getting to the fun. The second thing is that the aliens are really disappointing. The level that introduces them had a lot of promise and represents a major tonal shift, but it also marks the downward spiral we'll be plummeting along to the end of the game. We get no hints as to any kind of culture or motive behind them, nor any physiological detail. They're monsters, and they want to eat your gizzards, and that's as far as we get. Also, they make things cold, because they absorb energy, maybe? So they're Metroids, I guess. Any opportunity to do fun alien world building stuff is foregone in order to get to the shitty final levels. The whole game up until this point has been going around shooting dudes, which is good, since that part of the game actually works. We hit the alien level and things change. That level itself is a confusing muddle of twisting caves and corridors with 6-axis movement, although it does correct you to an upright position. And no map, making it easy to get very lost. Still, it has enough new things going on and is short enough that it isn't all that bad. The same can't be said for the rest of the game. From here, we say goodbye to human enemies. There are only aliens to fight. There are really only two alien enemy types, neither of which are any fun at all. The little hopping ones are very annoying and have too many hit points, and the big ones are effectively helicopters and don't really provide much interaction. All the things about the system that are fun are now gone. Stealth is worthless, as you can't efficiently dispatch these enemies through its use. The amount of damage the enemies deal makes not being in armor mode prohibitively dangerous, and the very nature of the flying aliens precludes every strategy that isn't shoot at it until it dies. The sprawling level design has been done away with in favor of a series of what can only really be described as combat rooms. This level in particular is especially bad, as it involves escorting Prophet around with his malfunctioning suit, bringing him near fires so he doesn't freeze to death, and protecting him from hostiles. Basically, every element of the open design has been removed, and all the fun went with it. The level after that opens with defending a building from the big flying dudes, which still isn't interesting, and is followed by a mandatory mounted turret sequence, and then goes into a forced retreat in which your only contribution is to run away. Then you have to pilot a VTOL in what I guess amounts to this game's equivalent of an afterburner sequence, and then you get to the aforementioned character intro cutscene. The final level consists of wandering around a bunch of tight hallways in an aircraft carrier, and ends with shooting 1 million flying aliens until you're allowed to shoot the really big one with a portable miniature nuclear launcher. Congrats, you win. It really is quite stunning. Games having weak endings is pretty common. There are a lot of reasons for this. Sometimes the majority of dev resources are front-loaded, since many players won't get far enough to see good stuff if it isn't early. Other times, funding runs dry and development has to wrap up with a truncated ending, or no ending at all. It's rare to see a game with a bad ending that seems to be a result of an active attempt to excise every single compelling mechanic. Well, I don't think it was on purpose in that sense. It seems that Crysis really was a tech demo, after all. Strong, player-driven design gives way to linear, prescriptive schlock in order to hawk Crytek's fancy engine. So, what's the conclusion? I'm not sure. An enjoyable game, but not a great one? Give it a whirl if you're interested. There's fun to be found. Just maybe don't finish it. Hey, you made it to the end of the video. Good job. Yeah, I just wanted to try doing something kind of different with this. And, well, I also said that I would do it, so here we are. I have done it. If you're curious, I do have a full Let's Play of this game on my channel. Those were the first videos I ever made, so they're pretty not good, but they do exist. You can find them here. Making videos like this is a lot of work, actually, god. I don't know how often we're gonna be seeing this sort of thing from me, but every once in a while might be interesting. Alright, that's it.